Saga of a New World, Book 1, Dawn of the New World. Chapter 5, Another's Mind, Hard Love. The dream is fuzzy. She's at a place she associates with joy, a clearing in some forest. Smoke and the smell of alcohol and roasting meat fills the air. The young she-elf is still in her armor. Now that the fight is done, the sweat-drenched clothing is starting to feel cold. Blood and mud covers the linen-like material of her pants. With a sharp exhale, the woman drops the bag of loot she's carrying. For the first time since yesterday evening, her quivering fingers grab the helmet on her head. They find grip on the metal feathers coming out of the side, and with more effort than it should take, her hands lift the helmet of polished bronze off her head. With a quiet dong, the helmet that marks its wearer as a healer is dropped on the floor. Her mother would kill her if she saw her drop this priceless family heirloom from the good old days on the floor like that, but the young elven woman doesn't care. Her nose hurts where the helmet rested on it, and with a dull thud, she drops onto a fallen tree. It feels good to sit. First, she opens her belt and loosens the straps that hold her leather armor onto her body. A crossbow bolt is still stuck in the leather right over her left lung. The leather stopped the sniper's missile, though just barely. She can feel the iron tip brush against her skin as she peels the mixture of leather and fur off her body. The thin shirt underneath is drenched in sweat, and as the cold wind blows against it, a shiver runs through her body. She quickly pulls it off, exposing her naked skin to the chilling winter wind. Next, her sore feet are dragged out of thick and stinking boots, and finally, the blood-soaked pants lose contact with her legs. What was once a human woman's green wedding dress now acts as a towel, wiping away the mud and sweat that still clings to the elf's pale skin. Without another thought, she drops the garment on the floor. She stumbles past her friend, Tilly, who is slowly unwrapping the black bandages that make up most of her scouting armor. On a nearby tree, the auxiliaries prepared fresh clothes. As a healer, she's one of the last to leave the battlefield, but tradition and basic decency dictate that the best clothes are to be left for those who come home last. The patriarch of her house watches his warriors undress, bloody hammer still in hand. His pale face is covered in mud and blood, but his eyes are still alive with the unnatural vigor of the golden invocation. As she passes him, a hand slams into her shoulder. "Well done out there. Your mother taught you well." The young woman's sensitive skin burns from the impact, but she just stumbles towards the fresh clothes without a reply. Unlike his, her body is not infused with powerful magic, and she just wants something to wear. The armor was like a prison, but walking around naked is a bit weird. As she grabs a simple white dress that smells of soap, she hears him praise the next warrior behind her. The elf quickly pulls the garment over her head, puts on a pair of leather slippers, and steps into the camp. She's been through several skirmishes, helped burn down a village, and nearly knocked herself unconscious, healing wounded, yet the pounding in her chest infuses her body with new energy. Her eyes fall onto a fallen tree that has been turned into a makeshift bench, and with quivering steps, her legs carry her to it. She waits, anticipation coursing through her veins like fire. The reason for her excitement is a man named For, a male elf from House Lorthan. The village they attacked had 10 black ones there. The group of human mages helped the villagers and soldiers in the fight against their attack. The elves ultimately won, but it cost them. A few were killed and even more wounded. 4 had been one of the wounded. She's not sure exactly how it happened, but he must have gotten too close to one of the human fire mages or one of their fireballs. She's not too familiar with fire magic aside from the fact that it easily overloads force fields and that the wounds it causes are hard to heal. The Black One fire mage blasted forward with fire and essentially turned most of his front into charcoal. When he woke up, he looked at her all star-eyed. They talked a bit and he promised to challenge her tonight. Part of her doesn't believe he'll actually go through with it. The other part prays to all gods and spirits that he will. When she was a little girl, her grandfather and grandmother told her about the time before the Northborn curse. Everyone married and lived together. Her mother was one of the first generations born after the defeat of the Destroyer. While her grandmother married her grandfather, her own mother wasn't so lucky. She was sure she'd never find anyone either. Now, her heart pounds in the hope that 4 was serious. It's already getting late. Her doubts intensify. She tries to distract herself. Her friend is sitting next to her, eating meat off a bone. She wants to eat too, but her stomach feels too knotted up to take anything. She watches the patriarchs of both their houses talking to the nearby dragon trader. The dragon watches his servant, a small imp with grey fur, tell the 2 elves something that's apparently extremely interesting. Occasionally, the massive red beast says something in its growl-like language, and every time it does, its servant pauses, then translates his master's words for the elves. The dragon itself is a rather small one. She can see its fur glisten in the firelight. Novi feels the urge to touch it, but has too much respect for the fire-breathing monster to actually do it. Dragons are known to be extremely arrogant and conceited. This particular dragon looks young. The pouches of treasure strapped all over his body are probably all he has. Through the imp, he will trade them for food and for other trinkets and baubles to add to his collection. Their patriarchs are probably selling a few things and the corpses of those they've killed to the dragon in exchange for some gold and information. She watches them talk until she sees someone coming towards her out of the corner of her eye. It's 4, and he's coming straight for her. Her heart almost rips open her chest. He's not wearing armor. In fact, the only thing he is wearing is a pair of loose linen pants, probably part of today's haul. The skin on the left part of his chest and abdomen still looks pink and slightly scarred from being burned. His face is square, with small lips and a large nose. His cream-white hair reaches down to the small of his back. He had it in a ponytail during the battle, but now it falls freely. He's not as tall as some other elves, and perhaps not the most handsome either, but Novi doesn't care. His figure more than makes up for it. Years of both training and the extreme physical stress that the use of magic has have built up muscles that are easily visible beneath his skin. His slender elven frame makes them stand out even more. It's the body of a proper force mage. She has to bite her teeth together to keep them from chattering. "Hello, Novi," he says. Her friend drops her meat and stares at them. 4 stands there, staring at Novi. According to ancient tradition, a man would prove his worth to a woman and test her strength by challenging her to a fight. If he beat her, he would be worthy and they could marry. He would ask her if he's worthy, and she would attack him to find out. He's just standing in front of her now, doing nothing. He's obviously come to challenge her, or he wouldn't be half naked. On the other hand, it could be some elaborate ruse to humiliate her. If she just challenged him and he didn't accept, she would humiliate herself in front of everyone. Yet if he says yes, she would be one of the lucky few who have someone that's truly theirs. Novi decides to end the awkward silence by slapping him. Everyone around them stops to look at them. "Prove your worth." Novi gives him a yes to a question he has yet to ask. He didn't expect the attack, but doesn't flinch. A smile creeps across his face. For a moment, Novi is sure he will tell her to sod off. She's sure he's about to laugh about the fact that she thought she was special. To ask what makes her think a lowly, not even particularly skilled life mage should be anyone's one and only. Let's go. He waves towards a nearby clearing. His shyness, or whatever that just was, has evaporated. Her ears ring and her stomach feels like a solid slab of stone as she follows him to the clearing. She's aware that a small crowd is following them. An old elven man is already waiting for them. He's wearing the skull of a stag as a helmet. Novi doesn't recognize him, so he must be from For's house. He looks her up and down. She realizes that she's still fully dressed. As quickly as she can, she takes off her dress. Then he waves for them to stand on opposite ends of the clearing. She can feel the eyes of everyone on her and hear her own heartbeat as she walks into position. This is it, she thinks. Once they both stand opposing each other, the old man says, "For, Novi is prepared to test your strength. Prove you are worthy more than a glance by beating her in combat. No magic. Otherwise, do what you will. Now get ready." Novi wants to say some witty taunt, but the words get stuck in her throat. She considers just letting For win, but shakes that out of her head. No one likes a weakling, and she's still an elf. She will fight properly. For's face has turned dead serious. His voice deep and low, he says, "Let's do this." As soon as they're ready, the man says, "Fight!" and takes a few steps back. For immediately charges with his head down and his arms open. Novi braces herself for the tackle, ready to counter his attack. Too late does she see through his trick. Right before reaching her, he suddenly straightens back up mid-charge and Spartan kicks her in the chest. The attack knocks the wind out of her and causes her to stumble back. In an attempt to capitalize on his successful kick, For lurches forward to grapple her. Even though she can barely breathe, Novi is not stunned enough not to counter his attack. As he tries to grapple her around the neck, she dodges and grabs his shoulder. If she manages to pull him down, she could twist his arm back and essentially win. Of course, he won't be embarrassed that easily and pushes her back before she can pull him forward. Now, it's Novi's turn to attack. As soon as she regains her balance, she kicks him in the side. He jumps back to dodge, then jumps forward for a normal punch. She dodges it and retaliates with a punch of her own. Committed to his own strike, he's unable to block and her fist connects with his face with full force, forcing him back. Novi immediately punches again. This time, he manages to intercept the blow. As he tries to push her down into a headlock, she manages to turn his own arm up and over her shoulder. Someone in the crowd yells, "For, are you serious?" With one quick move, she manages to grab his head and back and tries to slam it down on her knee. If the move worked, she could repeat it until he's knocked out, but she underestimates his strength. He manages to catch himself before his head impacts her knee, and with a roar like a bear, he pulls himself back up. The sudden force causes Novi to lose her balance. For throws himself at her with a wild lunge. She sees him fly at her, but isn't fast enough to react to it. His body slams into hers, throwing them both on the ground. "Come on, For! Show her what you got!" someone yells. To stop him from pinning her to the ground, Novi punches him in the face. A mistake. While the hard blow takes his breath away, tanking the punch allows him to drop down on her and use his body to lock down her arm. While he uses one hand to hold down her other arm, he uses his free arm to put her into an inelegant but effective chokehold. They struggle for a while until Novi feels herself running out of air. Knowing that he has won, she relaxes. For feels the resistance against his grip fade and immediately releases his chokehold. "You are worthy," Novi croaks. He immediately lets go and allows himself to drop to the ground. While the others cheer, they both lie on the forest floor, gasping for air. Their kin help them up, while the old elven man yells, "For has proven that he is worthy of Novi, so it is the will of the gods that they be together. Does anyone wish to challenge this?" Novi sees her mother in the crowd surrounding them. This would be her chance to challenge For if she didn't approve of him. Of course she won't. She's smiling ear to ear. The next question is whether Novi will join his house and travel with them, or if he will join House Oratoris. That is a question their patriarchs will have to concern themselves with, though. Right now, she's far more interested in 4, who leans in for a passionate kiss. Thank you for listening to this Ember and Sparks production. Click the box on the left to listen to the next chapter or the box on the right to see an overview of all chapters available for this story. Check out the links in the description to listen to this audiobook without interruption. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss a new story. See you soon.